May God's living Spirit be present with each one of us as we seek to open our hearts to the good news of Jesus Christ. Trinitarian sermon tonight. The three of us were on a mission trip to the Dominican Republic. We just came back last Tuesday morning. We're still sort of recovering from it. Speaking for myself, you all are young. You're probably all rested up and everything. Anyway, we're going to share with you some reflections. Hannah are going to speak. I understand they've been colluding with each other, so, you know. Incidentally, I think it's awesome you get together and plan this stuff. You know, half of the time I'm trying to think of what I'm going to say when I'm on my way over here. So, okay, I'm going to let you hold that. Let me make sure it's working. And then when you're done, I'll see if there's anything I want to add to it, okay? All right, go for it.
Okay. Hi, I'm Hannah. This is my first time doing a trip like this. We went with the intention of helping them and impacting their lives for the better, but what I really wasn't prepared for was how much these people would impact my life. Other members of the group, I really wasn't that nervous going into the trip. However, this trip taught me a lot of things. The affectionate culture taught me to be more accepting and love one another for who they really are. The Dominicans that we worked with truly represented a family. The generosity and hospitality was inspiring. They were very hospitable in the fact that we worked side by side, all tired and hungry, yet when lunch arrived, no Dominican ate before all the Americans were served. Generosity was exhibited when an older Dominican woman made all the girls bows for our hair. Felix, a local jewelry maker, gave us all either a pendant or a pair of earrings that he made. I also learned that relationships are very important and the work will get done. Friendships formed quickly between all the kids despite the language barrier. All of the youth found a commonality through music. Kids there made their own fun, but they also helped when opportunities presented itself. Down in the Dominican Republic, we used empty caulk, tubes, and paintbrushes against the walls to make music. And we had lots of fiestas when the grown-ups weren't looking.
I'm Courtney McGinnis, and I came to this unknown place and started to was there to work for God and help spread His word. And we created this church that they can now further their relationship with God in. And the journey really didn't just benefit me or the Dominicans. It benefited everyone that we were together working side by side. And seriously, when we got off the plane, it was really overwhelming. I kind of was just kind of worried about everything, because it was so hot and you started getting sweaty and you're hearing everyone speaking a different language and you're just kind of oh my gosh, I'm here in another country. But you just really have to just trust that God is gonna have this plan. And then Elizabeth was always there with knowing Padre and talking in Spanish, which was I don't know what they're saying, but it's gonna get me. I'm gonna trust it. It's gonna get me there. And then we got to the work site and there was a language barrier there, and no one really knew. We were just staring at each other. But then we started being able to thell each other things through hand signals, scrape this, use a rock to scrub the wall down. And then we bonded through just playing. Literally, it was the most innocent fun I've had. I felt I was a kid again. And they're just such good, proud people, and they really do care about everything and everyone. Their homes look a little messy, but their relationships was something that will stick with me forever. Because they didn't judge each other, they were kind all the time. They might be playful, but they always end up kissing each other on the head or giving each other a hug. So it was something to really take away from it, and it was really beautiful the way they interacted. I really they're proud, good people, the Dominicans.
Thank
They're
you.
very sweet.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Lenny Froelich, and signing up for the DR trip, I was a little bit unsure at first, but looking back now, it was the best decision I ever made. As soon as we landed, we were immediately greeted by Padre and a few of the Dominican kids. It was a pretty strange and overwhelming place at first, being in a different country, speaking a different language. But before we knew it, the next day we were off to work. Immediately, we saw the affection of the people that we worked with. We saw that they were like a big community that loves one another. And we had a chance to be a part of that. Another thing I noticed was that although the work was important, downtime was also very important. If it was just playing soccer, football, or even taking a nap in the pews, it was important to be sure to have a little fun and take a break. Talking to one another at first was tough, but it didn't stop us from communicating. We talked about all sorts of things, from soccer and what's going on right now in the world, and we did that through lots of hand signals. Their kindness to us was overwhelming. Although we came to the Dominican Republic to help them, in a way they helped us too. Upon returning to Detroit, I could only help but notice that all the things in my life I take for granted, and some things that I don't pay attention to enough. And now the people in the group that I went with on the trip, I feel that we've all bonded a little bit closer because we now all have this trip in common. Some of the kids in my group I just met, and of course I've seen them at the meetings leading up to the DR, but you can't only truly understand somebody. The best way is to go to a different country and live right next to them.
And shovel dirt with them.
Yeah. And now I still feel that there's a little bit of Dominican in all of us, even though we're here right now.
Good morning. My name is Michael Santoro, and I also went on this mission trip, but unlike most of the people on this trip, this was not my first mission trip. This was my third. And walking into it as my third, I was holding the belief that it would be similar or identical to the other two. And never was I so wrong. Just as he said right when we got there, we started off basically immersed in the culture with Padre. He just made it so we could be so connected to the culture and the people there. And when we met all the kids at first, we were a little nervous, but that's usually how it is when you meet new people.
Especially when you can't understand a word they're saying.
Especially that. But over that week, with all the hard work that we did together and all the fun times, like we played drums and danced around for a while and fiestaed with the adults doing work in another area. Yeah. But we became really close with all of them. And it's a bond that we created with them. It was as close as I think we could have gotten to being a family. And they really came to mean a lot to all of us. I think it was amazing being able to have that and being able to more fully understand each other and ourselves from just hard work and having fun downtime with these people. It was probably one of the greatest experiences.
I feel that there's a little bit of Dominican in all of us.
Michael Santoro, and I also went on this mission trip, but unlike most of the people on this trip, this was not my first mission trip. This was my third. And walking into it as my third, I was holding the belief that it would be similar or identical to the other two. And when we got basically immersed in the culture with Padre, he just made it so we could be so connected to the culture and the people there. And when we met all the kids at first, we were a little nervous, but that's usually how it is when you meet new people.
Especially when you can't understand a word they're saying.
Especially that. But over that week, with all the hard work that we did together and all the fun times, like we played drums and danced around for a while and fiestaed with the adults doing work in another area. Yeah. But we became really close with all of them, and it's a bond that we created with them. It was as close as I think we could have gotten to being a family. And they really came to mean a lot to all of us. I think it was amazing being able to more fully understand each other and ourselves from just hard, down-to-earth experiences that I've had in my short life.
En el nombre del Padre, del Hijo, y del Espíritu Santo. We are going to have a Trinitarian sermon today. I'll leave it up to you which one of us is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Fiona and Sarah and I, the significance of our mission trip to the Dominican Republic, from which, we only still kind of in a daze from it. So I'm going to let you guys go first. And
Okay. While we were in the Dominican, what I realized is we have so much here in America, and they have so little where they are, but they seem so much happier with their lives than we are. A good portion of America believes the more you have, the better life you will have. But when we visited the Dominican, they had so much happiness with the simplicity of their lives. We walked around before we left for our flight, and so many people lived in these little shacks. But they were so welcoming and giving, even with this little amount that they had. This one woman even came up to Mrs. Kipps and we are so much more fortunate than these people, yet we don't like to share what we have nearly as much. It was especially changing because you see these videos and commercials of how some countries live, but you don't truly believe that it's actually happening to people until you see it for yourself. It takes time to process, and when you go through that experience, you want to continue doing this type of work just so you can keep changing people's lives and making a difference through the world. I loved going on this trip, and I pray that I will have the chance to go again next year. It really made me take a new perspective on life and what really matters as opposed to what seems important at the time, when in reality, it may have no difference after a while. These people showed me that, and I cannot wait for the chance to go back and expand on the change that we started last year, continued this year,
I must
and will hopefully
confess,
expand.
I was not overly excited about this trip. Being a rather shy and awkward person around teenagers, I was positive that, one, I wouldn't really talk to the other members of my group, and two, I would be counting down the minutes till I could return to Michigan. How wrong I was. It took a few days for our group from Christ Church to bond together, but for us to bond with the Dominicans, it took only one. It started with fiestas on the work site in the first day because all of us were so hot we just got tired of scraping the walls. And we all went into a room and just were dancing around randomly, and it was funny. The work was grueling, but in its own way, fun. The scraping was the only chore that was not fun. It was sweltering and the dust got everywhere. There was about an inch of layer of it on me when I was done. Painting was better. It had more time to be social, and it was easier, a day early. So we all went to the beach on Friday or Saturday with the Dominican kids. We played games and swam and had a wonderful time. We really bonded a lot more together. After our group and two of the Dominicans, Gary and Nana, both of whom could speak English, which was very good, went ziplining, which was a ton of fun. We were yelling random things as we flew through the trees and goofing off at each stop. On Sunday, we had a mass in the morning and fiesta in the evening. Church in the Dominican Republic is more full of life and, in my opinion, the friendliest church I've ever been in. Instead of handshakes during peace, it was a hugging session, and everyone was clapping along and dancing to the music. In the evening, the fiesta was by far the most fun I had had in years. I danced the merengue, which is a traditional dance there, till my feet were ready to fall off. After I was so happy, I ran down the hallway singing at the top of my lungs and then jumped into the pool fully clothed with everybody else. The next day was our journey home and the inevitable farewell to the Dominicans. We all cried as we were hugging them goodbye, and so were they. We were all promising that we would be there next year. Well, it was hard. I really did not want to go home. It was an incredibly life-changing trip. I bonded with my group, who I am proud to call all of them my friends. and I bonded with the Dominicans, who I miss so much. I hope that I will be able to return next year and see them all again and continue the work we started this year. This mission trip changed my life and my mind in a way I thought not possible, and I will never forget my experience.
Old Testament reading about how Jacob fell asleep. He had no idea that he was sleeping at the gate of heaven. We're like that most of the time. Our spiritual imaginations are stunted. We lie awake at night and say, I can't sleep because my pillow is hard as a rock. And if we should fall asleep and dream of heaven, we wake up and say, by the grace of God, the dream becomes a reality. And sometimes the world becomes the way that it should be. And as good, as beautiful and hospitable and filled with a sacred presence as it always is, but our eyes are open and we can see it. And it was like that for me in the Dominican Republic with you guys. I experienced this in our work on the Church of San Simon, which when it's finished will be the most beautiful and attractive building in that whole impoverished town of San Marcos. I experienced it in relationships within our group and with the Dominicans, who became our very dear friends. I experienced it in our immersion into Dominican society and its landscape. This is a vibrant culture. It is loud. It is musical. And it is desperately poor. But these people have a gift and a secret that we need to know and learn for ourselves. One of the guys this morning said, there's a little bit of Dominican in us now. Thanks be to God. The Episcopal community at the Church of El Cristo Rey in Puerto Plata last Sunday. It's incredible to think it was just last Sunday. This was a profound experience for me. I've been taking part in helping to lead worship in the Episcopal Church for 45 years. And it's interesting to discover that you can come across it all as if it was brand new for the first time. In these experiences, the dream became real. The presence of Christ became as real and tangible to me as you are, and you are, and you are. That presence is a reality all the time. And how awesome is this place? For this surprised me the most is that since I've come home, it's as if everything around me has been an extension of the mission trip. And there's a lot of really difficult things going on in our family right now that seem to accumulate while I was gone. But even those seem to have been touched by a sacred presence, so that it leads me to look, bless you, it leads me to look around and say, surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. You would have gotten a kick last Sunday when I was helping Padre Bienvenidos do the liturgy, and he say, okay, you do this next part. I don't know any Spanish, but I know the liturgy. So I could fake it, I guess. I got away with it. They let us come home. Yeah. But after this experience of standing next to this incredibly dynamic priest who is our partner in mission there, I wrote something for him. I haven't given him to him. I'm not sure that I will. I haven't given it to him. But he knows this is how I feel. I told him. And what I was saying is this. Padre Bienvenidos, when you are at the altar, you become a transformed person. You are not just reciting sacred words, you become them. And con las frases en español melodiosas, el viento del mar y las manos moviéndose sobre los vasos sagrados como si tiendo una tiedo sagrada entre el cielo. The melodious Spanish phrases flow like wind from the sea, and your hands moving over the sacred vessels as if weaving a sacred web between heaven, supporting us in this great mission trip. It's a mission by us, for us, and to us. There is no better work that we can be doing, and we're just getting started. Amen.
Amen.